Thanks for joining us. I'm Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow. Election day is November 5th, and if you're a registered voter, you'll soon get a ballot in the mail. Now, I know you've heard a lot about the people at the top of the ticket, but things further down the ballot can sometimes be overlooked. So Fox 13 News traveled across the state, from Vernal to St. George, to hear from people like you about the most important and impactful issues being voted on this year.
If we keep doing things the same way we've always done, we're going to get the same results.
It's already a struggle with taxes, so that will be, I don't even know if we'll be able to stay in business.
Every area of this valley really has different needs.
I feel like this is such an important decision because this is going to affect generations of families here.
Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, whoever you are, a lot of people feel the same way about this. They should have listened to the people.
What I'm the most excited about is that this is going to be on a ballot so that the American people here in this area can come and vote and have their voice heard.
We'll have a whole nother layer of government. Our taxes are going to go up. We're not a city. Let's do it differently.
You cannot make a new school district with a smaller tax base and have it cost less.
No taxation without representation.
Together, I've been there like 6 times.
Nick Salinas is talking about Salt Lake County's jails, which he's been cycling in and out of for years.
I end up back down here or something. I mean, because I know a lot of people that are like that.
I'm Fox 13 investigative reporter Taylor Stevens. In November, Salt Lake County voters will have a chance to weigh in on a $500 million public safety bond, meant to help people like Salinas and keep them out of Salt Lake County's jails.
If we keep doing things the same way we've always done, we're going to get the same results.
If the $507 million ballot measure passes, Salt Lake County would use the money to consolidate the 2 county jails. It would also add new jail beds for the first time since 2001 and create a new Justice and Accountability Center. That's a place where low-level offenders could access mental health and substance use treatment, job training, and even connect to housing opportunities.
So that as they re-enter into the communities, they have the tools that they need and the support that they need to get on a path to self-reliance.
The ballot measure received bipartisan approval from the Salt Lake County Council. Utah's governor, director of homeless services, and Salt Lake City's mayor have also supported the measure. For an average home valued at $602,000, the bond would cost an extra $5 a month or so, around the cost of a cup of coffee. And county leaders believe the proposal would ultimately save taxpayers money over the long term.
We know that right now in our jail, almost 50% of people come back to the jail within 3 years. We are already in a cycle that's costing taxpayers a lot of money.
Still, it's a cost at least some taxpayers have told county council members they're wary of as they continue to struggle with the impacts of inflation and persistent tax hikes.
Asking again to raise my property taxes for the 40th time. It's getting a little old.
The Utah Taxpayers Association, a government watchdog group, told me it will be staying neutral on the ballot measure. When I told Salinas and other repeat offenders about the measure recently, they expressed support for the plan, noting that they see few resources available currently for people who are exiting jail.
People that are going into like the county and then getting out and then going back in and then getting out, they don't have anything when you're getting out.
Reporting in Salt Lake City.
They give you a phone call if you got somebody to call, that's about it. Kind of sucks.
Taylor Stevens, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Tucked past Ogden Canyon.
And we've always loved it. We've always come up here. Plus there's 3 ski areas, a lake.
Are communities that make up Ogden Valley.
We are rural.
But between the pretty sights of mountains and farmland, you'll see some signs posted too.
There have been a lot of movements to create a city, but this is the first time it's reached the official ballot status.
To incorporate or not incorporate, I'm Fox 13 News reporter Maithili Gubbi here in Ogden Valley, where some Weber County residents have an important question on their ballot this November.
It's been very obvious to most of us within the last 5 years that we have no representation.
3% of Weber County residents live in Ogden Valley, and 2% of the county's registered voters live in Ogden Valley. Jim Burge supports making Ogden Valley a city.
I think we'll have the impact that the voters, the residents here, can have a lot more power, influence on what will happen and how the development will unfold.
For Laura Warburton, she's leading the effort to keep Ogden Valley as is.
I don't want a city. Cities require a much different approach. not just mentally and emotionally, but legally. Legally, we'll be required to do many things that we won't have to do as an unincorporated entity. We have a lot more protections as an unincorporated entity. We have the county's strong support.
Voters here get to decide their form of governance.
Well, the question right now, actually, there are three questions. The first one is, should we incorporate as a city? And this is just sent to the people who would belong to this city if that initiative passes. But then you have two additional questions. The next one is, if we're a city, what form of government should we have? And there are four different options. And then the last one is, if we decide to have council members, should they be districted or should they be all at large?
Last year, the Lieutenant Governor's Office commissioned an independent feasibility study. It found that incorporating Ogden Valley would lead to a, quote, at least a 5% budget surplus and, quote, no additional Ogden Valley tax rate is necessary.
Personally, I think incorporation needs to be done. It's time, actually. I think the Valley waited too long. We don't have a voice.
Laura argues that key services like snow removal on 98 miles of paved road, contracting law enforcement, and even buying or constructing a city building would mean more costs and work for the city.
Services will have to decrease unless we have taxes go up significantly.
This decision comes down to just under 5,000 voters, so every voice counts.
A lot of interest up there. They've had a lot of meetings, both for and against incorporation. So there's a lot of attention there, and I suspect turnout will be higher up in the Ogden Valley.
In Ogden Valley, I am Maithili Gulbi, Fox 13 News, Utah.
For the first time since 1999, voters in Salt Lake City will determine the fate of a school bond. I'm John Franke outside of West High School, one of the schools in for some big changes if voters give the district the go-ahead.
First things first when talking about a bond is the money. The Salt Lake City School District is asking voters to approve a bond worth $730 million. It'll be paid by raising the property taxes of Salt Lake City homeowners. According to numbers provided by the district, if approved, the property tax burden would increase by $38.33 for every $100,000 of a home's value. So in simpler terms, if your home is worth $500,000, you'd see your property taxes increase by a little less than $200 per year. That's the what. Here's the why. If approved, Highland High School and West High School will be rebuilt. In August, the district let me inside West High to see what they described as inadequacies of this more than 100-year-old facility. Things like tunnels with abandoned pipes, small classrooms, patchwork tech wiring, which was not a concern when this was built back in the 1920s, are all reasons why they want to start from scratch.
Learning about what new high schools have, their space, the common area, the natural light that they could have, technology, of course, and looking at where we're going with what we want to offer students here, our facility just can't keep up with that.
The school's principal, Jared Wright, believes the current building is past its prime and students and faculty deserve something better. The bond would also replace Highland High School, vintage 1950s, construct a new athletic field at East High, and fund energy sustainability projects district-wide.
We're currently at 22% of reduction on our carbon footprint, and this would bring us closer to 70%.
The district is hosting open houses to allow voters to see the plans up close and meet key players in the project, like the architects who say builds like these do not get any cheaper if you wait to put shovels in the ground.
During the pandemic, costs kind of escalated quickly. Now at least it's regulated a little bit, but it continues to climb. So we always advise that the best time to go is right now, and you get the biggest bang for your buck.
At a recent open house, I met Meryl, a mom who says education is an important issue because her young son will likely attend Highland High in the future.
I'm very interested in sustainability. We try to live as simply and resourcefully as possible. So I like that component and factor, but also have to weigh that against needed upgrades.
The district estimates the bond will be paid in 25 years, with the new facilities and improvements standing for generations beyond.
It's served 104 years. It's time to build a building that would serve the next 104 years.
The district is hosting a final open house on October 23rd at 6 p.m. at Highland High School. In Salt Lake City, John Franke, Fox 13 News, Utah.
You'll see more than one bond measure for area school districts on the ballot. As Fox 13 News anchor Robin Oginye shows us, the Murray City School District says the time for upgrades to some buildings is long overdue.
Class is in session at Riverview Junior High, but
this building is several years old.
Yeah, you gotta push down on that screw.
Many of the systems in this building have just aged out. Our plumbing, our electrical, our mechanical, our heating, everything is deteriorating. All of that can be fixed, but that comes at an incredible cost, and you still have an older building.
And that's why you'll see a bond request for $125 million for Murray City Schools on your ballot. $90 million of that would go toward replacing Riverview Junior High.
We're continually repairing and fixing and replacing, but all of that costs money. And it feels like we're just kind of not being responsive to our taxpayer dollars by continuing to throw that money at a very old building that has so many things that need to be repaired. Also, it's also a human capital cost. We spend a lot of our time here with our maintenance individuals working on this building, and those individuals could be out working in other areas if they weren't addressing so many critical needs here.
Murray City School Superintendent Jennifer Covington tells me the plan to rebuild Riverview has been in the works since 2018, but COVID disrupted those plans, and in the interim, the cost of construction has gone up. On the list of fixes, the leaky roof, which has surpassed its lifespan and is upwards of millions of dollars to redo. The plumbing is deteriorating, and pipes within the foundation need to be redone, along with outdated wiring.
You can see what happens and how the roof is impacting what we see.
If $90 million is allotted to Riverview, where does the remaining $35 million go? That would be right up the road to Murray High School.
When Murray High School was rebuilt in 2003, the design included the option to add on if needed. It would allow more room for ninth graders to learn. So this courtyard you see here would be cut in half and the main entrance would be moved.
To know that in Murray City School District, in the past 40 years, we have only done 2 general obligation bonds. So we've only gone out to the taxpayers twice and asked for a bond measure, a general obligation bond measure, to improve our facilities.
So between the 2 projects, what would this cost you? The district says residents' property taxes would increase $11 a month. Businesses would see a $20 increase.
Oh, all of us are taxpayers, and no one likes to hear that taxes are going to increase. However, we need to provide spaces for our students in public education because we want to educate students for generations to come. When we build a school building, we build it for 50 to 70 years and are very mindful of how to use those taxpayer dollars.
For context, take a look at surrounding school districts. You can see Murray City School District has the 2nd lowest property taxes in Salt Lake County. They also have the 10th lowest property tax rates for school districts in the state. Superintendent Covington is hoping voters will keep all this in mind when they go to the polls so that the home of the Raptors and the Spartans can actually feel like home for students for a while longer.
The general obligation bond measure is our mechanism as a school district to rebuild or to enhance our schools' property. And we really appreciate the opportunity to be able to partner with our taxpayers to do that, to show our kids and to show our community that we care about the spaces that they're learning in. This current building, although it is a fine building, has been well maintained, it does not lend itself to that modern and learning environment and those modern experiences we want to give our students.
Robin Oginye, Fox 13 News, Utah.
It comes with the territory. With Summit County being a world-class tourist destination, it can put a strain on emergency services. That said, the county is asking voters to pass a ballot proposition that would raise the sales tax 0.5% to help fund emergency services.
So it's 50 cents on every $100 that's spent. It's a tax imposed on goods in Summit County. They're sold in Summit County, but not all goods. There are some goods that are excluded, including unprepared foods, which is mostly what you'd buy at the grocery store. Gas is also excluded, and prescription drugs are also excluded from this tax.
Summit County Manager Shane Scott going over how the Emergency Services Sales Tax Initiative would work. He says it's designed to help mitigate the impact visitors to the area have on emergency services, including police, fire, and search and rescue, as well as landfill services.
For example, for medical calls, we can't just pay all of the medical through this tax. We have to actually show that the medical that we pay has been caused by tourism or touristic activities.
According to the county, the 0.5% tax hike that would stand for 10 years and be tacked onto the current 7.45% sales tax could raise about $15 million in a given year, helping the county balance its budget and avoid the need to raise property taxes. In surveying Main Street in Park City, not too many people knew about the proposed sales tax hike, but regardless, didn't think it would hurt business.
I think because of the international as well as across the United States clientele that we have, I don't know if it's going to be a direct impact on how they perceive their what they pay for sales tax.
Summit County officials say the burden of the tax hike won't be on locals, that 65% of the tax revenue generated from the sales tax increase will be paid by out-of-towners.
We have a lot of people that come visit us from all over the world, and what they usually don't realize is they come and they have this wonderful place to visit, but then when they leave, they usually leave an impact upon us.
Scott says since the county council approved the ballot proposition, the county can't campaign in favor of it passing. All it can do is give voters the facts so they can make an informed decision on Election Day. From North Summit County, Mark Blaine, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Now, Amendments A and D will be on your ballot, but votes cast on it simply won't be counted. Here's why. The Utah Supreme Court voided Amendment D after a legal challenge. The state's top court sided with the League of Women Voters and Mormon Women for Ethical Government. They argued the ballot language appearing before voters on Amendment D, which dealt with citizen ballot initiatives, was misleading.
I think what this ruling does, it affirms the constitutional right of the people to a process that's both transparent and correct, that has good information so they can make the right decision.
The court also found Amendment D failed to abide by the Utah Constitution's requirement of publication of a notice of an amendment in a newspaper. That same argument was used by some education groups who challenged Amendment A, which would have removed the earmark on the income tax for education. This law dates back to 1895 when newspapers were printed daily. But now, not so much, and the House Speaker says it needs to be addressed.
And nobody reads the newspaper anymore. It's unfortunate that the opposition found that loophole, and now that the voters don't get to make that decision. So these are things that will be addressed coming in the next legislative session and future sessions to come, but definitely things need to be talked about.
Amendments B and C on your ballot are less controversial. B raises the amount distributed into an education fund, and C ensures that county sheriffs are elected to office.
To split up the Alpine School District or not, that's up to you, the voter, coming up on November 5th.
Judging the judges. We'll talk about judicial retention elections on your ballot. This is one of the biggest parts of the ballot and something many people know the least about. But there's an easy way to find out about all the judges who are up for retention elections.
It can be very daunting to look at a ballot sheet and see a whole list of names.
Christine Durham served as the Chief Justice of the Utah Supreme Court. In her career as a judge, she's been up for retention many times, and she knows a lot of people don't make it a regular habit of being in court.
Most people who aren't in the business, they get all their justice system from the TV. And I can tell you, it's often not very accurate.
Judges make a lot of decisions that impact your life, and sometimes you don't think about that. But a judge can make a custody decision, they can make a property decision that affects your property rights. They do a lot of things.
Mary Margaret Pingree runs the Utah Judicial Performance Evaluation Commission.
We gather information from people who do spend time in court. So maybe it's not you, but attorneys, social workers, court staff, interpreters, people who spend a lot of time interacting with a judge.
They evaluate judges and give that information to you, the voter.
Do they have good legal ability? Are they good at administering the courtroom? Are they fair to everyone in their courtroom? What's their temperament like?
The evaluations are collected and a score is given. It's published on this website, judges.utah.gov. Think of it as like a Yelp or a Google review of judges.
Most of our Utah judges are good judges, but you can see we assign a numerical score to each category. So let's take legal ability, for example. 3.6 is the minimum standard. If a judge gets a 4.4, you can see, okay, 4.4, and then you can see how their colleagues rate in that particular area. So maybe their colleagues are all 4.1, so you can see, oh, this judge is above average in legal ability and way above the 3.6 threshold of meeting the minimum performance standards.
Durham herself has been evaluated this way when she was a judge. She says it's a good system.
The evaluation system has given the voters and the public the information they need to keep good judges and not keep judges who aren't meeting the standards.
I'm Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold. The Alpine School District is the largest school district in the state of Utah with more than 85,000 students, and it has just continued to grow. On your ballot for the November 5th election, 2 propositions are being brought to you, the voter, to decide whether or not to split up the district.
I really do feel that it affects all of us. And that this is a multi-generational decision.
Heather Newell is a Lehigh City Councilwoman and a mother of 3 children in the Alpine School District.
I feel it's probably the most important decision that we're going to make as Lehigh residents because it's going to affect our children and their children.
Newell is talking about the possible split from the Alpine School District.
Speaking for myself, I think it's something I've been studying. I feel like it's a really good position to be able to put our city in.
According to recent Utah legislation, the decision to split a school district had to come from the cities. In April, Lehigh entered into an interlocal agreement with 5 other cities to study a possible split. By August, all 6 city councils voted unanimously to put the issue on the November ballot.
So Proposition 11 is for those cities in the central area. So the residents of Lehigh, Highland, Alpine, Cedar Hills, American Fork, and then the Utah County portion of Draper will have the initiative on their ballot. So it will ask them if they would like to form from Alpine School District a new school district with those cities.
Those 6 cities also did a feasibility study that took a look at the fiscal impacts, such as startup cost of creating a new district, as well as what student enrollment growth could look like. The study stated that a new central district enrollment and taxable value growth would be higher than a reorganized district, and that a new district has a slightly higher taxable value per student relative to the Alpine School District.
Proposition 14 is for the west side. So those are residents in the area of Saratoga Springs, Eagle Mountain, Cedar Fort, and Fairfield.
That would be known as the West District. If both propositions pass, that would lead to a 3-way split, with everything staying the same if neither pass come November. Alpine School District Board member Stacy Bateman pointed to some positives.
Being able to have 7 board members dedicated to the cities in Proposition 11 is going to be a really remarkable thing.
However, board member Sarah Beeson says she isn't for the split at this time.
I'm also concerned about the possibility of this being a top-down instead of a bottom-up decision. And we really need to be listening to those that are at ground level, our teachers, and finding out how things look for them.
Groups like Stronger Together, a nonprofit in Orem, say they believe there are some valid reasons to split the school district, but feel like this process has been done in the wrong way.
It's left out 81,000 of the voters because the people in my city, Orem, as well as Pleasant Grove, Linden, and Vineyard do not get to vote on it.
Sissy Rasmussen is a co-director with Stronger Together.
We know from the study that Alpine School District did that taxes are pretty likely to go up because of, loss of economy of scale, same needs, smaller tax base.
Rasmussen says they surveyed 3,400 likely voters in the school district.
The most surprising thing was that very few people in the so-called central district support a 3-way split, but just about 10% of the voters in that area supported a 3-way split. Now, other voters also supported a 2-way split or staying together.
Whether you are in support or opposed to what's on the ballot, those Fox 13 News spoke with say it's important to have your voice heard.
I think that people need to find out about it, be educated about it.
In American Fork, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A year after voters in Iron County rejected a $74 million school bond measure, the county school district is going back to voters with one that's $8 million less. Fox 13 News reporter Chris Reed goes in depth on the district's need and why some board members say there's such thing as taxes being too low.
We were in danger of losing state funding because our taxes were so low. So I'm really hoping and praying, we all are, that the community comes together and supports us and supports our kids.
School officials say campuses in Iron County are overcrowded. Not only are many schools using trailers as extra classrooms, the district has now run out of trailers. They tried to get a school bond passed last year. It failed by 22 votes. The district is trying again with a smaller proposal to fund the construction of a new elementary school and an alternative school in the county. The bond is dividing Republican leadership in a county that voted 79% for the GOP ticket in the 2020 election.
They seem to be very out of touch with what the average voter is going through, what we're experiencing. And, with inflation
Richard Jank is the secretary of the Iron County Republican Party and says the school board hasn't done enough to cut what he says is wasteful spending. According to the Utah auditor, Iron County spends the 5th lowest per pupil in the state, already ranked among the lowest per pupil in the country. Iron County School Board member Tiffany Christensen says she gets emotional about the school bond, especially after visiting the elementary school in Parowan.
We kind of walked around into a corner and entered into the mechanical room. And there you could see desks set up. They were using every square inch of that school. And it's just really hard right now because there's no space for anything.
If approved, the bond would increase property taxes by $32.36 per $100,000 of value a year, or about $2.70 per month.
Taxes are challenging, and it's hard. When we're looking at it simply from a tax standpoint, that can be a challenge. But when we look at it, what type of an investment can you get for that little amount of money that truly makes an impact on your community all the way around?
Jank, who is a web developer for a private school, says charter, private, and homeschooling are making up the need for more space, and says the growth of Iron County doesn't mean there's a need for more space for students.
But a good portion of the people that are moving into Iron County are retirees from Nevada and California. So they're increasing the amount of property taxes that are being paid without increasing the number of students who are attending.
Voters will ultimately determine whether they think students need more space or they have enough. From Cedar City, Chris Reed, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Also on the ballot, a recreation tax in Washington County finds no real opposition, and a sales tax repeal in Vernal is kicking up a stir. You can see those pieces at fox13now.com. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Here's the thing about ballots. You have to be registered to vote to get one. This is a mail-in voter registration form for Salt Lake County. It covers everything from your eligibility to your party affiliation. Now, this is voter.utah.gov. Here, you can register to vote, update your voter information, and check to make sure you're even registered. You can even sign up for ballot tracking when you fill out and drop off your ballot. Now, in order to register by mail, your county elections office must receive your completed form by October 25th. That is next Friday. It is also the deadline for online registration. In Utah, you can register in person on Election Day, and for those already registered to vote, mail-in ballots will arrive from now until October 29th. You can take your completed ballot to any secure drop box, any in-person voting center, or if you are mailing it, make sure it's postmarked by the required deadline. Now, if you want more details on any of the topics we've covered tonight, you can go to our website, fox13now.com. Thanks for joining us. On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.